think I always wanted to be creative, but fear prevented me from creating. The fear of not earning money, of having my peers shun me, not being viewed as a success, I think what those did was they whittled me down into making more obvious choices and picked these careers that made me feel empty. And so this is a small way of meeting that creative urge, that urge to do something physical and that urge to do something personal. My name is Scott Carey, and I make coffee.
I grew up in Missouri. I went to school at Missouri State University, and then I went to graduate school at Berkeley in California. I was in a PhD program in chemistry. I dropped out after 3 years, got a master's. Then I moved over to the law school, got a law degree, took the bar for New York.
And then in '99, I moved to New York. When I was really young and naive, I thought that there was such a thing as objectivity. Truth, basically. I had a philosophy teacher, and he said, there is no such thing as objectivity, it's agreed upon subjectivity. And I think it was lost on me at the time, and I felt really offended, like, oh, that's a cop-out, you're giving up, you're an old man. But that's really what it is. We reach consensus, and then when the consensus doesn't work, we dig down, and the foundation gets a little deeper. Sump is a coffee shop, but I guess it depends on your perspective and your experience in terms of what a coffee shop is. So what I mean by coffee shop, we serve coffee, and that's all we do. We don't serve decaf, we don't have sugar, we don't blend the coffee, we don't roast different roast levels. Sometimes it makes sense to be more purposeful about what you do. Science has borne out that you really don't retain as much when you try and multitask. So there's a reason for you to do things with a singularity, and there's an intimacy between you and that thing that you do with such a singularity. We try and be what I'll call peak to peak. So just like an in-season heirloom tomato tastes better than a tomato in the middle of winter, that's what we try and do with the coffee. Most of the shots in this shop are gonna be bright because that's just what we do. We roast light and we're trying to highlight that. And I do that because I'm respecting what that farmer did in a way. So I believe that we're capturing origin notes and processing notes by doing that. And that farmer is doing something purposeful with his or her crop. They're making selections on what coffees to grow, you know, what varietals, what elevations. So if we roast it till it tastes like carbon, then I'm disrespecting all those choices. I'm not trying to blend something so that it's the same experience all the time. I'm actually trying to highlight the differences in the season, the differences in each bean. A roasting curve, if you plot the curve of time and temp, looks like a modified parabola. And as it starts climbing up, it's going to go from green, which is the color of the green fresh beans, to a hay color. And it's going to turn into the cinnamon color as it continues to climb on the other side. But as it approaches that, it's going to go into its first crack, an actual audible sound that the coffee makes. How you develop the area of the curve before the crack is going to determine what's in that cup. The first crack is the most important crack, and it's the only crack we do. Roasting is very creative. The roast has to be developed so it doesn't taste green or grassy, but I don't want it to taste roasty or more smoky. But there's that swath in the middle between those 2 points that you can then make all kinds of decisions. It's a rabbit hole that you could keep going down, and you got to balance it against your prior experience. It's also very unsettling because you close all these other doors. Anytime in life you're faced with occluding potential, foreclosing everything else, to me, that's a little hard. I guess I was in maybe some career crisis. My brother was diagnosed with cancer. And I don't know, I guess I've never been super sentimental or super concerned. I've known other people that have cancer and can succeed and win, but there was something about him getting sick that felt like it wasn't going to work out. I didn't really do anything except kind of become as much of part of what he was going through as I could. This is more of a process of understanding and then self-reflection. Honestly, dying is messy. It's a horrible thing. Our identities are wrapped up in controlling how I present myself. And when you're sick and dying, you lose a lot of that identity and you become bare. You know, I feel really grateful that he let me be part of that. I think the only help that I ever really provided to him was that maybe he thought I was a success in my life. And I think maybe he thought, my brother must really like me because he's here. Building and working in here became the project, and it was an everyday thing. Sometimes in life there's just the doing and there's not the explaining, and there's a lot of just the doing that happened in this place. It was a way to kind of grieve, to be alone, and you know, tearing this place apart was a way to like be angry, be many things. And so the beard at first was this thing that just grew, and then it came to the point where it was just a beard. I had a really transformative latte in 2005 that created an experience for me that made me like coffee, and then that created that sort of anchor, that ritual that became so important. There was this guy, very hipster, very classically tattooed. He came up, ordered a latte, didn't really say much, put it down and put the lid next to it. And I looked down and there was a Rosetta on it. And that was like the biggest disconnect I had, was you did that in a to-go cup that I'm going to put this lid on. So it wasn't like I was experiencing coffee. I was experiencing that drink. That was the best latte I'd ever had. So it was that experience and that connection that really turned me on the coffee. And so then it was just about doing something purposeful. You know, my brother had died. It was about doing something meaningful for me. Something that wasn't about, well, I'm going to go out in the world and earn a check and, I don't know, buy a flat screen TV and, you know, feel empty but not look at it that often, or look at that hole in myself. I think what you do in the now is the only thing that gives you value. And I feel the weight of that often, that urgency, that my time is limited, that I'm running out of energy and ideas and resources to do something significant for myself, not eternity. I mean, if you rely on eternity or the best stuff to happen after you die, then maybe you can be more forgiving of the choices you make here. But it's the only thing I have, and it's stupid. I always feel silly because a lot of people come in here and it's just coffee. I know not everyone's gonna like it. I know it every day. I mean, it's a bigger connected world, and it sounds stupid to say I don't make an Americano for that reason, but that's it. So I'm gonna do what I think is right because it fits the philosophy, it fits what I think we're doing, and it makes me feel good about the life I've chosen purposefully to live, not out of fear, but because of choice. And I don't think there's pretense in there. It doesn't mean that the rest of the world decided not to do it. It doesn't mean you can't get an Americano somewhere else. I think for some, the goal is for you to experience coffee in a new light. And so we want to try and create an environment that's a little novel, that's a little unfamiliar. So it has to be exceptional within our standards. And if I don't do that, then we have nothing. I think the more we're in business, the more I obsess about it. The primary reason is it's all we have. I want people to come in the shop and have a good experience, but I also don't want them to have a compromised experience, and I don't want to compromise my own experience. And I would have to say maybe it has to do with death. Maybe it has to do with, well, I've compromised enough, and I know what compromise gets, and I was unsatisfied compromising. I'm not saying that I'm happy all the time. I'm not saying that it's not a struggle, but the struggles are more worth it than the struggles that I had in the job that I wasn't so passionate about or didn't so much understand how it was a part of me. I really like coffee. I like what it did for me in my life. Coming here, I like what I can do with it in this time and place.